This quote comes from Dave Ramsey, another guy you might have heard of once or twice, maybe on a radio or a YouTube video or something like that, a TV show. But he has these words of wisdom for us this week, and I think this is a good quote from him. He said, "You must gain control over your money, or the lack of it will forever control you." Boy, that's I think it's control the things you can, right? And you gotta just rope that money in.
It is. And Dave and I don't always see eye to eye, but I wanted to take some time on this quote because I think it's an absolutely powerful principle when it comes to both financial planning and especially retirement income planning. It speaks to the importance of intentionality, to discipline, and to financial clarity. All right. Not just saving money, but truly owning your financial life so that it does not own you. And I want to break it down as to what he really means in that if you don't take charge of where your money goes, meaning if you don't plan, if you don't budget, and if you don't prioritize, then you are always going to feel behind, right? Like stressed out or maybe even enslaved by your current and future financial situation. And in terms of financial planning, there's a simple equation, and clarity plus intentionality plus execution equals control. So let's break down each of those. Clarity, know exactly how much is coming in each month, as well, and more importantly, how much is going out each month. Be intentional. Decide in advance how every single dollar is going to serve your life's goals. And then execution. Stick to the plan, adjust as needed, and avoid emotional money decisions. So once again, clarity plus intentionality plus execution equals control. What do you think about that?
It's a good equation. I feel like, I was in school. I think math was always the subject that I least looked forward to going to that class each and every day. But hey, I can handle an equation like that.
It was my favorite. Yeah.
Which is why you're in the line of work that you're in, of course, or at least one of the reasons these days.
No doubt, Matt. In retirement income planning, here's something to consider. Once you are no longer working, your paycheck stops. But guess what doesn't? Your bills. So gaining control means knowing what your monthly needs are, understanding what income sources you are going to have, like Social Security, a pension, annuities, cash withdrawals, right? All those different sources, and creating an actual written plan so that your income is going to last your entire life. So I wanted to provide some real world examples of, let's talk about person number one who has no budget, who's always scrambling. Let's say Susan retires at 67 years of age. She has $500,000 in savings and she's going to get Social Security. Well, she never really made a retirement budget and figured that she would just wing it. And so what happens is that she overspends in her earlier retirement years, and then inflation eats away at her buying power. And at 77, she realizes that her money won't even last her another 10 years. And there is a lesson to be learned here because Susan never gained control over her money with a clear spending plan. She's now being controlled by fear and uncertainty. Matt, what do you think about Susan?
Yeah, if you don't have that plan, then you're going to be like, it sort of goes back to exactly the quote, control your money or it's going to control you, or the lack of it is going to control you. Well, poor Susan, she didn't have a proper plan going in. And so that money, or lack thereof, or at least the lack thereof in the future, that's always going to be looming over her. And she can't enjoy the years of her life that she's supposed to be enjoying the most.
Right. I'll give you another example where having an income plan provides peace of mind. So let's look into a scenario where maybe a couple named John and Maria, they retire with $700,000 in assets, and they work with a financial professional to estimate their monthly expenses, to layer guaranteed income sources from Social Security and annuities and other things like that. They allocate other investments using a bucket strategy to cover their short-term, their midterm, and their long-term needs. And what ends up happening is that they know that their bills are going to be covered. They have confidence to be able to spend money on travel and on family without any guilt. And they have this freedom feeling, right? This feeling that they can do whatever they want in retirement. And it's what their golden years are supposed to be, and not necessarily fearful, right? They took control early, and now they are living life on their terms, and they're not dictated with what their bank account says each and every single month. A much more favorable scenario, Matt, don't you think?
I know I'm sitting here like, I like that story a lot more than poor Susan's story. Yeah, no, I mean, it's, if you have those plans and you have those different, like you said, those layers of income, then you know that you're going to be set up for success in retirement. That's the thing, is not only is it the actual sort of, logistics of, being able to pay your bills and all of that and do the things that you want to do every month, but it's also that most important thing, to my mind anyway, it was what you said, is that peace of mind that just is something you really cannot put a price on.
Yeah, you can. And so I think, going in giving a last example would be having a lot of debt in retirement, because that equals no control, right? A couple retires, but they still have $40,000 in credit card debt, and they have 2 car payments, and most of their income is going to pay fixed payments. And so what ends up happening is they feel pinched every single month. They're stressed. They have no margin for fun or for giving, or God forbid, for emergencies. And so I think there's a lesson here in that bad debt equals a lack of control. And instead of money working for them, it's actually working for the bank, because they are financially trapped by choices that they did not plan for. And so the takeaway is that if you don't tell your money what to do, it will consistently tell you what you can and can't, more importantly, can't do. And so in retirement planning, that means making sure that you have a written retirement income plan, eliminating consumer debt, or as much of it as you possibly can before retiring, knowing your monthly income needs, and then build in flexibility for fun, for emergencies, and for legacy.